All right, welcome to this week's Zoom call. It is our final Zoom call of the year. We started doing our Zoom calls back in like June of 2022, so doing it for about 6 months or so, and I think we've been pretty damn consistent on it. So that's been awesome. I had no idea what it was going to kind of turn into, and I think it's been a big help for a lot of people on here. So yeah, this will be our last Zoom call for the year, talking a little bit about goal setting, maybe recapping a little bit of the year as well. We don't have a lot to talk about today, depending on how much our participants here want to share with us, though. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about was, you know, how do you guys go into the new year? How are you setting goals? How are you guys, whether it's a New Year's resolution or it's just a long term, okay, what do I want to accomplish kind of throughout the year? So I'll just start first, because I already have my sheet here pulled up. So every year, and I actually did this today, in anticipation for this call, and then also I just do this at the last week of the new year anyway. And since I'll be out of town on Friday, I went ahead and got this stuff going. So let me go ahead and share my screen if I know how to do so. All right. So this is kind of a format that I like to do with this stuff. So, some of my goals are just long-term goals that I have set for the entire year. Some of these goals are things I want to do, every single month, and things of that nature. So like here on this side, I'm going to go ahead and just erase those goals there for a second. Some of those are personal goals. Some of those are health and fitness related. Some of those goals are financial goals and things like that. So really what I do here, I break it down January all the way through December. And every single month at the end of the month, whenever I go through and do my budget for the month, I'm also getting on here and just checking in on myself on where I'm at in my goals. I think, so like this one right here, that I'm clicking on, this box I had in there, an event every single month. So like I want to, whether it's a small little trip somewhere out of the state, or maybe it's seeing a comedian, or it's going to a concert. It's some sort of thing that I do that's a little bit special every single month that I'm trying to aim for. There's going to be some months in there that I probably don't get something like that done, but I try to be intentional about it. I think last year I was able to conquer that goal for the most part. I think at least 9 out of the 12 months, which was awesome. So I'm setting relationship type goals. I'm setting friendship type goals on there as well. So like I'm very intentional about seeing a close group of my friends once a month and trying to put something together, especially during the warmer months whenever we have a little more time and good weather accessible to us. But so I'm trying to see that group of friends once a month. I'm trying to see my parents once a month as well. So those are some of those kind of personal goals that I personally have, and especially with running full-time business on top of my teaching job, I've got to be really intentional about how I spend my other free time as well. So I actually go in there and write that stuff down. I'm also setting, obviously financial goals. We don't really need to dive into that, but just like with anything else that we're talking about, is we need to have these clear and defined goals and also why they're important to us. Now, some of these things I will actually go into a little bit more depth about it and write down why these things are important. As you see here, I'll also write down kind of actionable steps. So I have a savings plan when it comes to like finance goals, that I again stick to every single month. I have that plan and I do everything in my power to stick to it, just like I would my macros, and my diet and things of that nature. I try to make that stuff as automatic as, and that's different for me. I've been automatic with my nutrition and my other lifestyle habits for, over a decade now, but some of these other things are new and I've got to be really intentional about it. And I've got to remind myself of these things as well. So, I'm also setting goals on there. I mean, one of them, and some of these I like small, like easy wins on there. So I want to buy a PlayStation 5. It's been a couple years for that stuff. It's been out for a while, and not that I play video games a whole lot, but I like having the option to. So I went ahead and sold my PS4 just to have a little bit of that chunk of money to go towards a new PS5. So that's one of my silly goals on here. That's small. That's really the only silly one that I have on there. But so again, I'm checking in with this stuff just like I am whenever I'm doing my budgeting at the end of every single month, and just checking it off. So like whatever this one right here would be, I just put an X there if I got it. And so by the end of that year, I love being able to look back and see exactly how well I did with the goals that I had set. Um, So that's kind of what I would do with that type of stuff. Now, for me personally, my health and my fitness goals, most of that stuff is more automatic now. I think the only real thing I have is that this is the first year that I'll be having a coach for my off season. So, I've always had off and on, I've had coaches for in season, like when I'm in competition prep and trying to lose weight to step on stage. So I've always had a coach for that, but I've never had a coach for my off season. So I'm excited to see what that looks like with Caleb as my coach. I know I could put together a really good plan as well, but I just want to try a different approach and see kind of how that gets me. So ideally by the end of this year, I'm about 165 right now. I would love to be up to, the 175 to 185 mark. We'll see how I feel and how I'm looking as I'm getting closer to that mark. Trying to keep off, most of the body fat if I can avoid that as well. But so now that I've kind of shared, my outline, kind of my process that I go through in creating my goals, I would love to hear you guys, and what your guys's, goals are, whether they're physical goals or they are lifestyle goals or things like that. Now, before I started recording, Kayla, you already kind of shared some of your goals with me. I'll just kind of recap those really quick. You started with me with the holiday maintenance challenge. So our goal with that program is just an 8-week plan. It started at the very beginning of November and it goes until December 31st. So we still got a few days left on it, but you've been very successful with it. And so the whole goal with that, because most people, most Americans especially, is they gain 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds during those holiday months. And it's digging this giant hole for themselves that, maybe they already had the intention that, in October, that in January they wanted to start a diet and they wanted to start making these lifestyle changes to lose this weight. So then they just kind of coasted in and just say whatever happens over November, December. And now if they only want to lose 20 pounds, well, now they just gained 10 or 15 pounds over the course of the holidays. And now they almost just doubled that number that they had to lose. So with that holiday challenge, that holiday maintenance challenge that Kaylee was a participant in, you crushed it, because instead of just maintaining, like you said before we started recording here, you've already dropped 8 pounds in that process of doing that. And now you're ready to go for 2023. So I'm looking forward to that. I know you're going to crush it with that stuff. Krista, I don't know if you're still listening, if you're able to share. I know that you were putting down the kids to go to sleep, but I'll just kind of start in on yours and you can fill in the missing dots a little bit later on. But I know that, you had a baby in May. And we've done a client spotlight with you individually. But you had a baby in May, I believe, or April. Is that right? Okay, you're on, Krista.
Yeah, mid-April, and so I'm down 57. But I mean, a pregnancy where you don't feel good and you only feel good when you eat kind of skews that a little bit.
It does.
But I'm kind of at like a plateau mark right now, and I liked how Kaylee was saying before we started recording that she has goals to be outside more, because I noticed that with the colder weather, my cardio is starting to
Yeah.
drop off, and I know I have access to a treadmill in my basement and a rower, and like the change in seasons, I just kind of
Yeah.
have to reinvigorate my health and fitness in a different way,
Yeah.
and like cycling through different foods too, like protein and salads and vegetables. Like, you get tired of something, I know
Yep.
that you're a pro and you can follow the meal plans for a while. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to like figure out what works for me over the course of time.
Yeah. Well, also don't, if you're getting stuck with something, if you're getting tired of something, don't hesitate to ask though. And I can definitely come up with some new ideas for you as well. But no,
Yeah, most of the time it's just me being kind of a brat and wanting to cheat and then
yeah,
needing to be reminded to stay on track.
I feel that as well. I know I've been saying it on the past couple of Zoom calls and stuff, but I really do have 100% intention that I will be putting together some more recipes, and I don't know exactly how we're going to do that. I don't know if I'm going to share weekly, maybe like an email situation, or maybe kind of putting together more of like a packet type of situation, and just taking normal everyday foods that our normal Americans would make for dinner or whatever the case is, but then making those a little bit more macro friendly. Showing you guys how to integrate that, which a lot of you on here at least already know how to integrate that into your plan or into your macros for the day. But having those recipes and then having the ability to make them very macro friendly and some different healthy swaps, I think would be really helpful for a lot of people. And then, and we'll talk about in the future episodes about how we can figure that out into our macros and kind of plan our day around those meals versus, trying to figure it out last minute at nighttime when you don't have any macros available to eat. But congrats though, Krista, on your 57-pound loss. That is awesome. And you said you plateaued, which I know it's kind of been a plateau, but at the same time, think about when this plateau happened. It didn't happen in August and September. It didn't happen in January and February and March when you should be making big strides. It happened during the holidays. November hit and you have, and plus you have to travel a lot. You either have family coming in town and living with you, or you're having to go stay with other people on top of it. So it isn't just like me where I can just drive 20 minutes away, go see my family and come back home. Like you've got to share your space, or you have to go share their space with it. And that makes things very difficult. And the fact that you have treaded water maintained, even if exercise has fallen off a little bit more, even if your nutrition has fallen off a little bit, if you're maintaining during that time, then you're being mindful enough and you're controlling at least what you can control to maintain. Because again, like I said before, most people are gaining weight during this time, and most people are digging this giant hole. So if you can come out clean on the other side with maybe only a pound or two gained, if that, then to me that's a huge win. Because
and I have to remind myself that like I'm 30 under where I was hovering when I was not pregnant before joining TLF, and the check-ins help make me more mindful at those holiday meals that are occurring frequently this time of year.
No, 100%, because that's very, very true too. Like we didn't just hit, a low from like your pregnancy weight. We hit a low from when you weren't pregnant as well. Since you've been with me, off and on for the past couple of years and so. So those are all huge, huge wins. Again, maintaining right now is huge wins. And the fact that you're able to maintain your weight and tread water while not having to forfeit those fun holiday meals or those fun holiday experiences and events with your family, friends and family. So you're getting to kind of have the best of both worlds. You're down 57 pounds and you're staying down 57 pounds and still getting to enjoy those things. And then, we're a week away from kind of, at least most people, I know that not everybody's the exact same, but I feel like most people have a very clear runway, a clear horizon come January and February. Like I know that Nicole and I are so pumped, and we've committed to both of us that we are not going to make any plans for the month of January. Like we get back from Mexico on like the 4th or the 5th. And after that, we are going to have like 3 or 4 straight weekends with ideally absolutely nothing. We'll see how good we are about sticking to that. But, that's a big plan for us though, because it's been such a crazy couple months. So you're doing great with that. And so I would assume that January is a pretty smooth road ahead then, right?
Yeah, the only unique situation will be that I'll be out of a kitchen for a couple months. And so that will be interesting to talk to you about some workarounds with not having a functioning kitchen for a little bit.
That's a good point. So I'm sure you'll have a microwave. You'll just have moved that to a different spot in the house. Congrats on that.
Yeah, we already planning on like a little kitchenette area.
Okay, good. So I mean,
station.
Meal prepping would be harder with that stuff, obviously. And honestly, I wouldn't even really expect you to meal prep in that situation. Will you still have access to a fridge to obviously keep some meals in there?
Yeah,
or some foods in there?
Negotiating with my husband on putting a fridge and stove in the dining room, so I can keep my garage spot, but in the winter.
Okay.
But we're also having like our ceilings done and like lights throughout. So I don't know how much we're gonna have to get a storage unit. It's a whole ordeal. So it'll be unique talking to you about like navigating that.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't think we could. I mean, it's good for us to go into it with a plan. It's good for you to go into it with a plan. But obviously, I mean, you're a teacher, so we just got to be adaptable and make adjustments as needed. So, one thing that already kind of comes to mind with me is, and what I personally would do in that same situation is switch over to maybe leaning on a meal prep service like Fuel Cafe is good. Hitch has meals as well. I think they're a little bit more pricey. I've done Fuel Cafe before. In fact, I might be reaching.
I keep seeing things for 99 protein. Something in Overland Park, and so I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about all of those services.
That's an option as well. So they actually reached out to me about creating a partnership, but it happened to be right at the beginning of my last comp prep. So like in July, and I tried it for a week or two, but I was like, I literally can't eat your meals. Like I've got to stick on my own plan right now. So I might be revisiting that come January at some point. I might go back to Fuel Cafe. We'll kind of see. But regardless which meal prep service you go with, that would be a good benefit for you, because then you can order a bunch of meals. You can have them. Sometimes they'll ship them. Sometimes, I mean, both locations, you got a Phil Cafe off of like 85th or 87th Street, I think, and then that My 99 Proteins out in Overland Park as well. So you could stop there and get meals. I think they both do deliveries as well, so you could also do that. You can stock up on meals, so maybe just order a big bulk batch of it, and then put a lot in the freezer if you have the room for that, or just keep it all on your fridge. But that would allow you to have maybe 2 meals a day like that. Do a protein shake, once or twice a day as well. And then if you have the ability to kind of make something else, Kaylee mentioned crock pot and stuff like that, pressure cooker, so you can make some other stuff, but you would still have to have the storage space for that and still a spot to even put that. So yeah, exactly. Trial and error, a little bit of just communication back and forth on what's actually doable, and kind of navigating that from there. I know that we've had a couple other TLFers not on the call, but in the past year or two that we've had to kind of navigate that stuff. And really, ultimately, while you can make progress during that time, almost look at that as another holiday situation, as we just want to tread water and come out on the other end, not with a bunch of damage accumulated. Meaning we don't want to go gain 20 pounds because we're eating out 7 times a week out of necessity. We want to try to plan around that, so we're minimizing how many times we're having to eat out and stuff like that. Does that kind of make sense, Krista?
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about the services that are available as far as like food pickup or delivery
Yeah.
options, because my parents have talked about joining TLF, like middle-aged, but they don't want to cook or meal prep.
Yeah.
So it would basically, they would be coming at you saying, what can we do with like a food service
Yeah.
that you build a plan around? And
I
so I was
was
like, I don't know, it's kind of a unique question. I'll
I
ask
well,
him.
I was going to say the same thing as well, because I've had multiple clients. I mean, throughout the years, kind of lean on those services. I have a couple current ones as well, and so usually what I do with that is I'm like, okay, what meal prep service are we going with? And then I go kind of look at it, and I build out a plan based on like, okay, like here's like meal 2 for your day, and you can have, there's like 5 different options that are similar in macros from that website, from that meal prep service. So pick one of these, and then here's your meal 3 option. So I'm picking like maybe a higher fat option, a lower carb option for one of those meals, or more moderate ones and stuff like that. So then we can kind of customize that, and then look at protein shakes and supplementation kind of outside of that. And then looking at other things as well, like things we don't have to meal prep, but we might still have to cook, like such as like eggs and stuff like that. Like we're not going to meal prep eggs, but that's something easy, cheap, affordable, efficient to make as well. Takes you 3 or 4 minutes to make it. You can make it 6 different ways if you wanted to, mixing it up every single day. So, I mean, tell them that's definitely an option. And it really, just like with anything else, we can pretty much make whatever work as long as we have communication, that back and forth of it. We can figure out whatever for them or for you in this situation. Good deal on that. Chris, you got anything else for me at the moment? Anything you've been struggling with? Anything you want to expand upon or ask questions about?
Nope, I think we've covered it.
Rock on. All right. Well, Haley, haven't heard from you yet. Hopefully you're listening in right now and just haven't spoke yet. If you're there, let's hear something.
Yeah, so my goal, I mean, you already know this, is just to get back on track because I've had an off couple of weeks. But like with the weather here the next few days and being off work because I'm a teacher, I'm like, okay, I'll go for like a walk, stuff like that. And then like I've gone to the grocery store. I have my meals prepped for this week. But yeah, my biggest goal it's unique to this year, but just getting back on track.
Yeah. I mean, you say unique to this year, and I think around this time last year was a tough time for you as well. And granted, you'd only been started for, I think, a month or two around this time, if I'm correct. I could be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was, it was the first couple tough months, and then, I mean, you had an amazing year, and then you fell off at one point, and I know kind of fell into a tough spot, and then got yourself right back out of that. And then it sounds like you've had a couple tough weeks, and just like we talked about with Krista, give yourself some grace. It's during the holidays. You had a lot of success this year in a lot of different ways, learned a lot about yourself, and made a lot of a lot of big wins along the way, whether it was on the scale, not on the scale. It was with a lot of mindset changes with you, I think, as well. And in this situation, you didn't let things snowball past just a few weeks. You had a few weeks, you communicated about those struggles that you had, and now you're getting, remotivated, refocused. And I'm not one to wait to, January 1st to get locked in on anything, but we're a week away from that, and so it is really truly nice to have nothing on the horizon come January and having a fresh year to come into it strong. And I think that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah, and like I know I thrive a lot better like on a schedule. So like being on break is nice, but then like after a week I'm like, okay, I'm over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then like also like just sitting at home, like there's more like, oh, I'll just grab something while I'm out or whatever.
Yeah.
Like where at school it's
There
like,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm like, okay, my meals are here. I don't have any snacks. Like
Yep.
at school there's like no choice really.
What
Yeah, I feel the exact same way, Haley. I was thinking that too, is that whatever I pack for lunch, I have no choice. You have 15, 20 minutes or whatever, and you have to get it down. But what I tell myself at home on these really unstructured times is that look forward to a show and only do the workouts whenever like you only allow yourself to watch that show. Because think about all the great stuff that just came out, and then capitalize on that with the workouts because we have this little break. That would be one of my suggestions.
Well, and to kind of, I mean, since you're mentioning shows and stuff like that you can look forward to, is I don't want to be just like passively like out driving and be like, all right, I'm gonna go eat some bullshit. Like if I'm gonna eat some bullshit, number one, if I'm thinking about it ahead of time, I can plan that into my macros. And while that's tougher on like cutting macros, you can still do it and you can still be a little more flexible with it. But so I'm trying to save whatever that cheat is or whatever that more flexible meal that I'm really, really looking forward to that nighttime. I actually just made a post about this on Instagram, I think like last week or something, about saving a meal that you're really, really looking forward to at the end of the day that you can kind of reward yourself with. It's still going to be in line with what your goals are and with what we're doing, but at the same time, it's giving you a little bit more freedom, something more to look forward to. And really, whether I'm in prep, I'm out of prep, it's today, it's a year from today, I want my last meal that I'm eating something I'm looking forward to. Otherwise, I maybe I have my own issue with it, but I'm not going to be satisfied going to bed, and I'm going to be still like hungry and kind of food focused. Whereas if I have something that I'm actually looking forward to end my night with, then boom, that helps a lot. One other question I was going to ask Haley: what time are you on the days that you're working out? Well, actually, you haven't been able to work out because of your gym situation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was going to say is if you have the freedom to kind of work out whenever, push your workout off into kind of the afternoon. If you're not working out at all, then you can do what I'm about to say as well, is when I'm at home. So like on a Saturday or Sunday or right now, because I'm on break as well, unless I worked out in the morning, which generally I'm not during this time, I'm fasting until like noon. So I'm not eating anything in the morning. I'm drinking, half a gallon or close to a gallon of water. So I'm just downing water and water, and then some coffee as well because I'm up doing some work. And so I'm not food focused at all. And then at noon, then I'll have my first meal. And so one of the benefits to that is that, if you had 2 meals before noon, you only have X amount of calories left over for the day. But if you are waiting until noon and you can kind of push through that little morning hunger, and now you have the rest of the day, now you have the next 8 or 9 hours to squeeze in all your calories. So now you're going to be a little more satiated, a little bit more full. And then you could even plan it around, like I just said, plan whatever your meal is going to be for whatever show it is you're going to watch later on that day or whatever the case is. And then kind of work backwards and figure out your macros, maybe choosing some leaner protein options and some veggies and keeping pretty basic meals so that you have the room for that, whatever that tasty meal it is that you want to have at nighttime. So that's one option. And then obviously having other healthy snacks on hand. And something I was actually going to mention, which I'll save in just a second, because I don't want to take over your time, Haley. So did I answer did I give you any help with that stuff? Hopefully some of that was helpful.
Yeah, no. And then like my other goal, I know this, I've been an emotional eater my entire life. And I think it stems from having anxiety and just like pushing those emotions down or, whatever.
Yep.
And so that's my other goal for this year, is to not just be like, kind of like Krista said, like not just being a brat and like just doing it because you like feel like you can or whatever, but
Yeah.
like really getting a grip on that. And like I know, like I've done it for a year now. So like
Mhm.
getting the Bonza pasta over normal pasta like is a good way to fit that
Easy
pasta
swap.
craving in.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like having like a small piece of dark chocolate or like dark chocolate covered almonds or like something to satisfy that sweet tooth.
Yeah.
So like I know what to do. It's just getting out of my own way.
Which is very, very true. I mean, that is a part of it, is just not giving yourself the option to not do what you know you should be doing. And really that's where all of us make any change we want to make more difficult on ourselves, because we say, well, I can do this or I can do something else instead. And if we're giving ourselves two options, we're going to go with, especially when we tie in emotion and energy and maybe being burnt out or whatever the case is, we're tying all that stuff into it. We're going to pick the easier option. We're going to pick the one that sounds more fun, more tasty, more enjoyable than the one that we know we actually should be choosing. So just taking that shit off the table, not having unhealthy snacks at home, is one of the biggest things that we can do to avoid that side of things. If you don't have the discipline to avoid that stuff, and really, if you're not eating it very often anyway, you really shouldn't have a lot of that stuff in the house anyway with it. And kind of finding some other solutions. Something I would do, Haley, with your extra time that you have right now as well, and maybe this would be more difficult than not, but taking a little bit more time actually in the grocery stores. What I mean by that, and this is what I did in college a lot, is go scroll through and try to look for different seasonings, different sauces. Go look for different ideas and read the nutrition labels and try to find what are some healthy alternatives to things that I used to eat or things that I currently eat that maybe I want to save some room for. And give yourself some new things to kind of look forward to. It could just be one thing that you're inserting into your diet plan. So you're following the plan pretty rigidly, but you have this one new variance in there that keeps you kind of looking forward to it. That's a big thing as well. And something that I was going to kind of spin off that. Now, obviously, this part would cost a little bit of money, but what Nicole just got me was a Ninja ice cream maker. And we've only used it a couple times at this point, but I'm already excited with it and kind of looking forward to how I can be creative with it. But so essentially, you can take whatever, kind of blend it up, and then you freeze it, and then you go make sorbet with it. You can make ice cream with it, whatever the case is. So we literally made on Christmas Day. We didn't have heavy whipping cream and like all this stuff that you would make regular ice cream, which is what the little recipe book said that you could make real ice cream with. But so what we did instead is we had frozen fruit, we had almond milk, and I had protein powder. So I literally put those three things into the little jar of it. You do a little initial blending of it, and then you put it in the freezer and let it freeze for, I think you're supposed to do it for like 24 hours. We did it for like 5 hours, and then came back and had it later on that day. But so then you just reblend it. And really, all that was in the ice cream that I made was literally, frozen berries. I think it was like frozen mangoes and some bananas and stuff. So maybe 40 grams of carbs from those fruits, a scoop of protein, so 20 grams of protein, and then like 6 or 7 ounces of almond milk. So like 1 gram of fat, like 1 gram of carbs from that. So 40 grams of carbs, 20 grams of protein. Ice cream is what it turned out to be. And the texture was on point. And it was as close to ice cream as it could be, and only being 3 ingredients. So that's something that I'm personally really looking forward to, because you're not going to really overdo it on fruit. And maybe you can save all your fruit for the day for just that and whip that up into ice cream. So I'm pumped for it. And I think that would actually help a lot of people, because it gives you that sweet craving. And it's even better than something like Halo Top, because Halo Top is still going to be, 300 calories or 400 calories plus some fat and stuff like that, and much more processed. If you look at the ingredient label, while it might be better than regular ice cream, the ingredient label is still pretty long on those things. Well, the ingredient label on what I just made is 3 things. So I like the idea of that.
Yeah, a coworker has that, and he talks about how much he loves it all the time.
They are sweet. So like I said, I've only used it a couple times.
I think there's like a cheaper one on Amazon that's like it's just fruit that you put through, and it makes it like a sorbet just from the fruit. But I haven't looked into it.
Well, I mean, that's a good option as well, because then it takes away the option to make it really unhealthy, which obviously I could make that thing really unhealthy as well. I think Nicole used some like leftover desserts and stuff that were like and then she mixed that in with hers, so it made hers a little more sweet than mine. But otherwise, it was pretty good though. But yeah, Haley, I mean, you're pulling yourself out of this kind of tough time a little bit at the moment that you've gone through, but again, it's give yourself grace. It's during the holidays. January and February will be here. Shortly you'll get back into your normal work routine at school. and kind of hit the ground running with that stuff. But then, I know for you, one of the biggest obstacles, and maybe this is why you maybe fell off a little bit more nutrition wise, is not having access to that gym, because if you guys didn't know, Haley's apartment gym like flooded, and it had like the sprinklers go off and they had to like tear it all out, and they're like redoing it, but it's an apartment gym, so they're taking their sweet time with it. So Haley, I mean, looking into what gyms are around you, if there's 24-hour gyms, or if there's cheap, easy, accessible ones, Planet Fitness, something. Even if you have to drive a little bit for it, you're not going to the gym every single day. Like you don't need to do that. Granted, it would be nice for the cardio benefit of it, like on the days where you can't go on a walk, like right now. But finding a gym that you can go get in, 3 workouts a week, even if you just get 3 solid workouts a week, you can get plenty strong with that, burn the calories with it, and keep that metabolism revved up, and maintaining your muscle mass, which is another big key to kind of what it is that we're doing. Is we want to maintain as much muscle mass because that helps us lose more body fat.
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say, but I like used to work out in the morning, and that would like set my tone for the day. And then like I'm like, oh well, since I worked out, like I don't want to waste what I did like on a cheeseburger, like you know.
Yeah.
So, and like also my Apple Watch has told me like your exercise trends are down, and I'm like, I know.
Yeah. I know. Well, 1, it's -8 degrees in Kansas City, and 2, I don't have a gym to go to.
So even my Apple Watch is like nagging me to like get back on it. And I also got new glass meal prep containers for Christmas, so like I'm like excited to use those. So
Yep. And that's good. And we'll eventually do a call on that. But guys, if you can swap out your plastic meal prep containers with glass ones, way better for you. You're not having all that plastic and BPA and all that nasty shit leaking into your food, which I had to think about because I've been meal prepping and cooking that stuff for, like I said, like a decade. And I'm like, 3 meals a day, microwaved in plastic for 10 straight years. That's a lot of plastic that I've been just ingesting. So I'm trying to clean that up. So should you guys. Tim's on here. So Tim, I had to bail on him because I had a damn plumber at my house until I don't even know what time. I think he left. Tim, you're listening right now. I think he left around like 5:45, 6 o'clock. So,
no worries. Jake and I got it in. So
there you go. What'd you guys hit?
We did pull today.
Pull today. Nice. Yeah, because I wanted to go hit legs myself before you guys got there and train you guys, but like I said, the plumber was supposed to be here this morning, didn't come until 4 o'clock, and then ruined that stuff for me. But one thing he did do, so we hadn't had hot water in our kitchen sink since we moved in. Like the valve on it was like corroded or something with like calcium and stuff. So he was able to fix that stuff. So now we finally have hot water. I had him install water purifier, or not purifier, but water filter underneath the sink that I had bought a while back from a company called Hydroviv. And it's supposed to like not just take out, like the lead and that type of stuff, but just clean up the water in general, get all the parabens and like nasty estrogenics and stuff out of the water, which is great. However, I didn't realize it was going to affect the water pressure because the water's got to flow through, and apparently any under sink water filtration device like that is going to lower the water pressure. So now it takes like, I don't know, I think I counted, it was like 90 seconds to fill up my water jug instead of the normal 15 or 20 seconds. So that's a slight irritant, but it's healthier water, so I think it's worth it.
Yeah, they're pretty slow.
Yeah. Oh, do you have one as well?
We've had one at our old house before, and we've had them at like my work used to have one. So
oh, okay. The guy tried to talk me into, well, maybe not try to talk me into it, but you can do the whole house water filtration system, which won't affect your water pressure, but it's like $1,700. I'm like, maybe at our next house. I don't know if we want to do that here or not.
Yeah,
it seems pretty damn expensive. I think I can wait the 90 seconds to fill up my water jug, but again, we have hot water, so now we don't have to wait 20 minutes to cook pasta.
That's the important part.
Oh, Haley, if you didn't see what Kaylee said, a lot of gyms have holiday deals right now, which they do. I used to sell gym memberships, and I was waiving all the extra fees that I possibly could just to get my last sales in. Anyway, Tim, I know you just hopped on here. We're talking about a little bit of goal setting, a little bit of reflection on maybe this year versus, what do we want to do this coming year? So do you have any insights on or reflections on this past year, how it went for you? Did you smash any of your goals? And then what are we looking forward to in 2023?
No, I think I don't know if I really had any real defined goals for the last year, which might have made it. I guess. I guess the one thing I wrote down, I guess, was to fight complacency. So it's probably part of.
Yeah, there you go.
set
That's a perfect goal for somebody who didn't have any goals last year.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of where, when I joined you 2 years ago, it was kind of lose weight and to get stronger. And so I felt, after that first year, okay, well, I kind of did both.
Yeah.
So I kind of went into this year like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
So then all this year I kind of went up, went down, went up, went down. I think if I looked at last time this year and now, I'm probably about the same.
Yeah. It's yeah, I think you're similar to where you were then. And again, just kind of reflecting on your year, you had a lot of travel, even some overseas travel that you did as well. So that obviously kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into some things, but I think also just not having like really clear direction about where we were going might have been a factor in that as well. And right now while we're cutting, it's also again been through these tough months to cut through. So we'll kind of see where we end up, here after New Year's, and see where we kind of enter that first week of January and kind of reassess and game plan for what our goals are. So you should definitely be thinking about that. So maybe that first check-in of January, we have some numbers that we're working towards. Obviously in the gym, you and Jake have been hitting a lot of PRs. So maybe setting some goals in the weight room, which, ladies, I highly, highly recommend you guys doing the same thing. Is setting some quantitative goals in the gym as well that we want to hit, stuff that we can actually work towards there, because it's always good to see progress there, because sometimes we're not necessarily seeing it, and maybe that's going to challenge us to train a little bit harder while we're in the gym as well. So Tim, I think that would be your assignment the next week or so, is to kind of reflect on that, think about where we are, where we've been, and kind of where you want to go with things.
Yeah, because the other thing I wrote down too is just then we talked about it, I think, right when we started this cut, was more just make sure I get my more of a step goal or a move goal, because I sit behind the desk a lot, so it's important, I guess, to make sure I'm getting steps in and moving around.
Yeah, being a little more active. And obviously, again, that's tough to do right now with the weather here in Kansas City, but you'll have 8 months where it's good enough weather to go out there and get some steps in, get some walks in. Whenever you're getting to the gym, trying to get some steps on one of the cardio pieces would always be good as well. And then obviously, anytime you're on a phone call, it's whatever I do with any sort of consult calls, I try to plan it so that I can go take boss on a walk or something like that. So anytime you can get up, walk around the office while you're on the phone, or doing things like that, or even setting a little timer for yourself, setting a timer maybe every hour to get up and go walk around for like 5 minutes or so, which that's going to help with your posture and things like that, on top of just helping you get your steps up for the day.
I would agree.
There you go. Well, good deal, guys. If you don't have anything else for me at the moment, any other questions?
Marcus, I had one more thing.
Yeah, please do.
So we kind of talked about, getting back into the groove in January and hitting it strong. And the holiday weekend, I have a bachelorette party in New Orleans there's 21 girls going.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of hard is that one of those things, like,
when is that?
Just like any other travel, the Martin Luther King extended weekend, mid-January.
Okay, cool.
So there's a lot of eating out. There's a lot of drinking. Yeah. You're at an Airbnb. It's kind of hard.
Yeah. Well, first off, when was the last time you went on a bachelorette party like that?
This past summer,
okay,
Charleston.
Cool. Okay, cool. Well, so what I would say is enjoy yourself.
Well, I guess 2 summers ago, I had a baby this year.
Okay,
well,
yeah.
Gosh,
yeah.
It's a blur.
Yeah. Everything since March 2020 has all been a blur. But
yeah, I was supposed to go to Vegas 3 weeks after Maddie was born for a bachelorette party, and I was like, yeah, probably. I think it's 2 weeks. Probably can't do that. Can't even lift my own luggage.
Yeah, probably not. But no, what I would say is enjoy yourself. I mean, how many days you guys gonna be gone? Like 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just like Vegas. Alcohol is accessible anytime and all the time. Usually people that you're with are going to not care, and they're just going to be drinking, morning till night. Me personally, I can't do that anyway. So that's what everybody else is doing. I'm like, hey, if I'm going to drink at 8 a.m, I'm going to be asleep by 4 p.m. and I'm not going to drink the rest of the day. So I'm going to prioritize my drinking later on in the evening when we actually want to get a little more wild with it. But so, ultimately, over stress about it. Control everything you can leading up to it. Try not to waste any days that you do have control over between now and then. But then ultimately, like I just kind of said, prioritize when you're going to have a heavier cheat. When are you going to have the alcohol? Don't just have a mimosa in the morning just because it's there and you're drinking mimosa. If you're drinking, make it worth your while. Meaning, if you're drinking to get drunk, then drink to get drunk. Then don't do it just all day long because it's there. Choose to just drink water and prioritize that. Same thing with your food as well. New Orleans, obviously kind of a food mecca to an extent, at least with that Southern style food, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I do like seafood, so I would definitely enjoy that stuff. But that's what I would focus on though, is trying to get more seafood in, getting more, lean proteins in during the day and stuff. So trying to pick a lighter breakfast, maybe a lighter lunch, and then enjoying yourself more throughout the rest of the day. You're going to get a lot more calories in from alcohol. So again, prioritize. Where do you want to get those calories in from? If you're going to be drinking a lot, then let's try to moderate more so on the food side of things. But again, even if you went there and you made the worst decisions for 3 or 4 days, it's only 3 or 4 days. And as long as you are consistent going into it and consistent as soon as you can right afterwards, the damage is going to be minimal. The other main thing, and this is something that I always try to do as well, holidays, any other times like this, is just prioritize getting as much water intake in as you can, because the quickest way to see a 10-pound increase over the course of 3 or 4 days is being dehydrated as shit and not drinking any water, having a lot of alcohol, having a lot of, high salted foods and stuff like that. And now just watch everything swell up with water weight. Granted, it is all water weight and it's going to come off fast. But if you don't want to come back to the shock of, oh my God, I've gained 10 pounds in 4 days, then drink plenty of water. If you think you've had enough water, drink more water, and that'll help keep off all that extra water weight from the food that you ate. Otherwise, though, don't stress about it.
Okay,
and really,
thank you.
yeah.
That was all really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And anybody else is listening to this, whether you're on here or you're listening to it later on down the road, same thing goes for like New Year's. You're going to be drinking a lot that night, possibly. Some people are, some people are not. Drink plenty of water during the day, drink plenty of water that night. Keep your food choices that day, just like any other holiday, moderated if you're going to be indulging that evening. But anyway, though, guys, hopefully everybody's gotten locked back in now that it's Tuesday after Christmas and you're going to finish the year strong. Hopefully you are all motivated and excited for what 2023 can be for you. So set those goals. I showed you guys kind of the way that I personally set my own goals, but you do your own method with it and then stick to it. Nothing better than setting a goal and actually crushing it, which it was fun going back through it at the very end of my year and reflecting on what goals I accomplished, what goals I didn't, and maybe why I didn't. And also recognizing that it's okay to give up on certain goals if it doesn't really align with where you are anymore. So keep that stuff in mind as well. But good talk tonight, guys. Also, one last thing. I started the podcast for these community calls. I just call it Thriving Lives. So it'll be the Thriving Lives community Zoom calls on there that I'm doing. So I actually just recorded a little intro, little episode 1 earlier today that, if things go right, it should publish on Thursday morning at like 5 a.m. It should be on Apple and on Spotify. Regardless, I'll get those links sent out to everybody. So if you could at least just subscribe, that way you have the chance to go listen to it if you aren't able to make the calls. But I'll be talking about that a lot more in the coming weeks. So everybody have a great New Year's. Remember, I will be out of town Friday through next Wednesday or Thursday. So I think it's Wednesday. So get your check-ins in on Thursday. If you are able to check in on Wednesday, that would be helpful as well, because I do want to respond to everybody before I'm out of the country. But when I am gone, I don't know if I'll be able to really respond. So don't count on it. But if I do give you a message back, then it's just bonus. But anyway, though, guys, thanks for being on the call tonight, and Happy New Year. I will see you guys in 2023.
Well, thanks, Marcus.
Yep. See you guys.